Hi, and this is Jonathan. In this short video, we're going to be looking at some strategies for Type 1, Type 2 questions in the speaking section on the TOEFL. And first I want to share a little image with you, an idea here. So picture this. You go into a supermarket and you don't have a shopping list and you're not really much in a rush. So you're kind of just there with the cart, pushing around, going from aisle to aisle kind of aimlessly. You're looking around. Do I need this? What do I have in the fridge? Do I need that? No. This is what I do when I go into the supermarket. And when I'm with my wife, she complains like, hey, come on, we're not in a museum. Stop just looking around aimlessly. We have a shopping list. Let's get this. Go, go, go. Get that, get this. I'll see you over there. Come on. It's Sunday. I don't want to be in here for hours. Let's get in, let's get out. I would say that kind of comparison between me and my wife is really what separates a couple students here on these like Type 1, Type 2 questions where there's not much of a plan. The notes, the brainstorming is a bit disorganized. The details are not really there. And as they are developing their answer and improvising this, there isn't really much of an organization or a structure or a plan how to get started or how to end this. And so it ends up being a little chaotic. And usually what happens with students doing that is they don't quite know, have they put in enough information? Is that enough? Is their word count kind of sufficient? Are they around 100 words, or have they only said about 50 words, or they feel like they've just run out of time, so they keep speaking and speaking and speaking, trying to compensate for something with their pronunciation or not enough ideas. They keep listing ideas. They don't actually go into it slowly and pace themselves with specific details. So keep this in mind. Try to make sure that every sentence you make has a purpose. Lots of students try to use templates. I like to look at these more as checklist and think, okay, has my topic sentence brought in a couple key words from the question? Have I rephrased it slightly? Am I doing a good job of linking this and then linking it into what I'm going to say next? From there, do I have a clear, simple, easy to explain idea that I can clarify very simply? Or is this a very abstract, complicated, intangible concept that's going to take more than a minute to explain? So make it easy on yourself. Take something that's simple to explain, that demonstrates the point you're trying to make, and then from there maybe add another idea that complements this. It's not a synonym, but it looks at it from a different angle. And after that, just add another anecdote or add another explanation. In fact, you don't actually have to have two separate reasons, two separate ideas. You could take one idea and expand on this, go into detail on it, and just make sure that it feels well developed, that it's structured, that your ideas are coherent, that they link to each other in a logical way, and then kind of just wrap this up. So I'm going to show you an example here that I do with some students, and I'd like you to kind of try this at home. Okay, we're going to take a look at this question, which says, talk about a book you have read that was important to you for some reason. Explain why the book was important to you. Give specific details and examples to explain your answer. So I'm going to give myself a few seconds here for brainstorming. I'm going to say, okay, Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Now, what did I learn from this? I learned about the triggers, the actions and programs that I use, that I respond to, and the results, kind of the outcomes of these habits. And from this, I also learned how I can change bad habits and how to build successful ones. So an example of this, a bad habit, could be spending too much time on social media. And maybe a good habit could be practicing a foreign language on a daily basis and making this into a habit. Okay, so let me put 45 seconds on my clock. Ready and go. Okay, one book that I recently read that I thought was important was The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. I found this book to be very insightful, and it had a lot of research to explain how habits are formed, and that they are broken down into three elements: a trigger, a reaction, and an outcome. And by learning how each one of these worked, I was able to change some bad habits, for example, spending too much time on social media, and I was also able to set up some better habits, like practicing a foreign language on a daily basis. So for these reasons, I found this book to be highly important. Okay, that's 45 seconds. Now, what I'd like you to notice in here is the stressed words that I used, and also the way my voice is kind of going up and down, which we would call like an antecedent consequent if you compare this to music. So I'd say, okay, one book that I recently read that I thought was important was The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. So my voice kind of comes up at the end of important to show that I've finished my subject, and then I say, was The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Now I'm completing this thought, that kind of consequent, and my voice is going to come down. Then I say, okay, I found this book to be very insightful, and it had a lot of research to explain how habits are formed, and that they are broken down into three elements: a trigger, a reaction, and an outcome. So what I did there is my voice comes up, and it had a lot of research to explain how habits are formed and that they are broken down into three elements. So my voice comes up had a lot of research to explain how habits are formed. So how habits are formed, and my voice is coming down, but it's in the middle of a complex sentence, so I keep going, and that they are broken down, how? Into three elements. I'm not finished, my voice kind of comes up, and I have a list of three things: a trigger, a reaction, and an outcome. Da-da, da-da, da-da-da. And by learning how each one of these worked, so again, my voice kind of comes up, I was able to change some bad habits. For example, my voice comes up on, for example, I want you to keep listening, spending too much time on social media, and I was able to set up some better habits. I'm still not finished. Some better habits, like practicing a foreign language on a daily basis. So for these reasons, my voice comes up. I found this book to be highly important. If you can do this, these little raising your voice at the end of a group of words, like the end of your subject, or at the end of part of the beginning of a phrase, this will really improve your intonation, your sentence stress, and it will help your listener anticipate that what you are saying is not yet finished, or that there's more to come, or that you're going to complete some expectation that they're having about, like, okay, what are you going to say? Da-da-da? Da-da-da. Your voice kind of comes down on that. So you create this interest, you pique their curiosity, and then you fulfill that with the information that you're going to give to them. So one more time, let me go through this answer. Try to read this out loud with me if you want. One book that I recently read that I thought was important was The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. I found this book to be very insightful, and it had a lot of research to explain how habits are formed, and that they are broken down into 3 elements: a trigger, a reaction, and an outcome. And by learning how each one of these worked, I was able to change some bad habits, for example, spending too much time on social media, and I was able to set up some better habits like practicing a foreign language on a daily basis. So for these reasons, I found this book to be highly important. So I hope you have found this helpful. I would highly recommend that you record yourself. One tool that I like using is the SpeakPipe voice recorder. If you want, you could go ahead and answer this question talk about a book you have read that was important to you, record yourself with a SpeakPipe, and leave a link in a comment to this video, and I'll be happy to give you some feedback. So best of luck practicing for your speaking, and see you in the next video.